When it comes to gardening, how crazy are you? We often say it, I'm crazy about gardening, but have you ever put your crazy to the test? Join me today as I discuss growing super hot chili peppers. Hi, I'm Gardener Scott, and this year I'm going to grow some crazy hot peppers. I got the Superhot seed collection from Pepper Joe's, and the 10 packets in here will grow me some plants and produce some peppers that will be indescribably hot. And this is where the craziness comes in. We're not talking jalapeno pepper hot. We're not even talking habanero pepper hot. We're talking the kind of hot that if you're not careful, you can be sent to the hospital. Why would a gardener do this? Well, it's that crazy factor, but it's also the opportunity to grow something that few other gardeners ever even attempt. Superhot peppers have some of the most creative names of any plants I've ever grown. This is Primatali Red. Nothing too exciting about that, but how about Boot Jolokia Mustard and Mojo Pumpkin Tail? Here's Gator Jigsaw and Devil's Brain. That sounds intriguing. Here's the Gator Jigsaw Chocolate. You've got your Big Mama Blend. And of course, Armageddon Chocolate. Just the name gives you an idea of what to expect. Here's T-Rex Yellow. And to top it off, Purple Carolina Reaper. To understand why the plants that these seeds will produce deserve their own category of super hot chili peppers, it's helpful to understand the Scoville heat unit scale. That's the measurement of how hot these peppers really are. Back in 1912, Wilbur Scoville developed the scale. He started with the sweet bell pepper. No heat at all. It comes in at 0 Scoville units. He then took the capsaicin from dried peppers, and using volunteers, they determined if a particular testing pepper was hot. And then they would dilute the test with sugar water and see if it was still hot. And they would continue to dilute the sample until they reached that point that it was 0, no heat at all. The scale determines the number of dilutions that are necessary. So for instance, a jalapeno ranks between 2,500 and 8,000 Scoville units. And so on average, a jalapeno is about 5,000 on the Scoville scale. That means you need to dilute the capsaicin in jalapenos 5,000 times to get to the point where no heat remains. There are a number of hot peppers that we grow as gardeners that we might think of as hot, but come nowhere near the super hot level. One of the peppers that I love growing is shishito peppers, a mild pepper. It ranks between 50 and 200 Scoville heat units. Barely anything at all. When we look at peperoncinis, which you might buy in a little jar, they're pickled, they're also pretty mild, 100 to 500 Scoville heat units. The Anaheim pepper, which I love growing, does well in my garden and is also considered pretty mild, ranks 500 to 2,500 on the scale. And when we start getting into the chipotle peppers, we're starting to get some heat at 5,000 to 10,000 Scoville heat units. Cayenne and Tabasco, 30,000 to 50,000 Scoville heat units. And the hottest pepper that a typical gardener will grow is a habanero pepper. And they'll rank between 100,000 and 250,000 Scoville heat units. For years, the habanero was recognized as the world's hottest pepper. But that's nothing when compared to the current record holder for the world's hottest pepper. The Carolina Reaper has rated as high as 2.2 million Scoville units. That's 6 times hotter than the hottest habanero. The reason we know that some of these peppers are so hot is because the way we test them has changed. No longer do we give a sample to a volunteer and then dilute it to the point that the heat is gone. Now we use liquid chromatography to determine chemically just how much heat might be in a pepper sample. That's why I know with pretty good accuracy how hot the peppers will be from these seeds. Remembering that habaneros are as hot as 350,000, let's see how these seeds from Pepper Joe's rank on the Scoville heat unit scale. The Big Mama blend with black, red, and yellow Big Mama peppers ranks between 750,000 and 1,000,000 Scoville heat units. The Boot Jalokia mustard comes in at just a mere 800,000 to 1,000,000. Chocolate Armageddon, 855,000 to 1.4 million on the Scoville scale. The T-Rex yellow and the Primatali red, a mere 1,000,000 Scoville heat units. Devil's Brain, 1 million to 1.2 million. The Jigsaw Chocolate Gator, 1 million to 1.5 million. Mojo Pumpkin Tail, 1.4 million Scoville heat units. The Gator Jigsaw, 1.5 Scoville heat units. And this Purple Carolina Reaper, 1.6 million Scoville heat units. Right now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, that's crazy. Yes, it is. It's crazy to grow super hot chili peppers. What am I going to do with the fruit of these peppers? Well, that's a dilemma that I'll have to confront when it happens. I've grown super hot chili peppers before. They are beautiful on the plant. They are some of the most beautiful fruits I've ever grown. Have I ever eaten a super hot chili pepper? No, honestly, I haven't. But this year, I'm going to experiment by making some chili powder and some chili sauces and figure out a way to use these super hot chilies somehow in some recipe. I'm not there yet. First, I've got to grow these peppers, and they can be a challenge to grow. When you look up how to grow peppers, it's often recommended that you start your seeds 8 to 10 weeks before the last frost date. Well, super hot chili peppers are notoriously finicky when it comes to germination. Some of them may take 8 to 10 weeks just to germinate. So when we grow peppers like this, we have to add time to the process. Instead of starting just a couple months before we're going to put them outside, we need to start many months before we put them outside. My plan is to start germinating these peppers 4 months before I put them outside. And to improve the chances of germination and to hasten the time it takes, I'm going to be using heat mats underneath my starting trays. And I'll be using a thermostat to make sure that the temperature stays high enough during the entire germination time. Because these peppers need heat. 80 degrees Fahrenheit is a good target as far as the soil temperature to maintain for the many weeks that it takes until these seeds germinate. I'm planning on growing most of these plants in my greenhouse because they will benefit from the heat. They'll also benefit from being protected from the crazy weather I have here in Colorado, where we get high winds, devastating hailstorms, and cold when we least expect it. The super hot peppers I've grown in the past were in a greenhouse at the Galileo School Garden. I have time to figure out what I'm going to do with these peppers. And I've learned from experience that when you grow super hot peppers, especially if you garden with family members, you need to be careful about giving others access to the peppers. Years ago, when I was growing a number of different types, one of the peppers was habanero. Remember, a hot pepper, but not a super hot pepper. And one day, some of the students were in the greenhouse. I didn't see them steal one of the ripe habaneros from the plant, and they took it with them back to class. Well, I found this out later when I was called to the principal's office, because one of these kids dared one of their classmates to take a bite out of the habanero. That kid ended up in the nurse's office for the rest of the day, and I was told that I could no longer grow hot, let alone super hot peppers in the school garden. They didn't know about the boot jolokia and the reaper peppers that I was growing. Those would have probably sent those kids to the hospital. So when you grow these peppers, limit the access. Try to make sure that you don't have a kid that's going to wander into your garden and pluck off one of these fruits and eat it, because they are beautiful and they are colorful, but they can be hazardous when you grow them. And know what it is you're growing, because they can be hazardous to you too. In that same greenhouse, about the same time, I was growing lemon drop peppers. I had forgotten anything about how hot they were, and when they started ripening, they too were a beautiful pepper. And with a name like lemon drop, because I was growing so many peppers, I automatically assumed it was a sweet pepper. And so, sure enough, one day in the greenhouse, I pluck off one of those lemon drop peppers and decide to see how sweet it is, because it looks sweet. I take it, I bite it, and I literally fell to my knees. The tears welled up in my eyes. The lemon drop is a mere 30,000 on the Scoville heat unit scale. But that was enough, and the shock was enough to bring me to tears and spit it out and not taste it again. If you grow hot peppers, and especially super hot peppers, know the level of the heat that you're dealing with. I'm planning on actually writing on the plant tag the heat level of these various peppers, just to make sure that I don't make a mistake, and of course, so I can tell others who visit my garden just exactly how hot these super hot peppers really are. I'll also be documenting this entire process, so at the end of the season, I'll have a video that will show how to grow super hot peppers from beginning to end. And also by then, hopefully I'll have some good recipes that I can use these peppers in. If you're interested in following along and joining me on this crazy adventure, check out Pepper Joe's. I'll put a link in the description below. I've got my heat mats ready, I've got my lights ready, I've got my soil ready. I'm just waiting a few more days before I actually start these seeds and then start that entire process towards a crazy, crazy ending that I'm actually looking forward to. I'm Gardener Scott. Enjoy gardening.